All right, and we back on the forecast. Now we have to understand, no matter what we see, we have always fought back. I know people want us to believe that we have always been just submissive, but we haven't. Even 100 years ago in the middle of Jim Crow. The difference between then and now is the illusion of inclusion. That's why I don't understand why so many of us give white women a pass. White women are probably responsible for our deaths more than anybody. They have got men, women, and children killed, just off their words and their tears alone. And we are the last group that should be falling for it. And the more we give them a pass, the more we give white supremacy a pass. And even though they don't use the excuse of white women being violated as much as they did 100 years ago, they still use the same blueprint and have the same talking points. Now, the Washington, D.C. race riot of 1919 started after white soldiers began spreading rumors that a black man, Charles Rail, raped a white woman, Elise Stepnick, who was married to some white boy in the Navy. So after they got drunk, a mob saw this brother Charles Rail walking down the street with his wife. So then the mob started attacking and beating up him and his wife. And if he was with his wife, how could he have raped a white woman? Now Charles Rails and his wife Mary were able to break free and they ran home. And the mob chased them and shot at them the whole way. Then the mob tried to break into their home, but some of their neighbors saw what was going on. And unlike today, in 1919, not suffering from the illusion of inclusion, they went over there and they helped them and they fought the mob off. So then the mob, armed with bats, pipes, lumber, anything they could find, started marching through the black community, attacking anybody they could, pulling random black people off of streetcars or catching them just walking down the block. Now more and more white residents were joining them, and they attacked black men, women, and children all through the night. By the time the morning came, black residents started realizing nobody was coming to help them, and the mob just kept beating black people for no reason. A 22-year-old black brother, Randolph Neal, was shot by a white Marine as he was passing by on a streetcar. By the next night, black residents were fed up, so they had no other choice but to get organized and fight back. They started arming themselves, including black veterans who had just came back from the war, and they went onto the roof and just started sniping white people. They decided to take matters in their own hands, and they stopped anybody trying to come into their neighborhood by any means necessary. Black men started attacking white people on streetcars, and when they started to fight back, 10 white people died that night. And the white mob continued attacking random black people, killing 5, including one teenage girl who was shot in the back by police. By the 4th day, and still nobody coming to stop it, the President Woodrow Wilson had to call in about 2,000 military troops. And after a real bad storm, the violence finally stopped. After it was over, it was reported that anywhere from 5 to 30 black people were killed, and 10 white people were killed. And over 100 men, women, and children were injured, some more serious than others. But they didn't stand back and let their people be attacked. They knew they had no other choice but to defend each other. Because the dominant society doesn't care if it's a lie or not. Their whole point is to maintain their dominance. In Wisconsin, a young 18-year-old brother, Tyrese West, was chased and shot by the police twice in the head by Mount Pleasant police. Now let's see what led the police to shoot this brother multiple times, including twice in the head at close range.
New documents reveal that Sergeant Eric Geise saw Tyrese West on his bike and knew there had been car break-ins recently and that he suspected that West may have been involved. Those documents say that when he tried stopping West, a foot chase ensued.
Got him down, he tried tossing him. Yeah. I was stepping on his hand right here. Yeah. And then he kept moving towards it. And then he moves past it and he's moving back.
Mount Pleasant body camera footage shows Sergeant Eric Geise speaking to officers after he shot and killed 18-year-old Tyrese West back in June. In the video, he explains West tried to grab for a handgun he dropped while running away.
And I told him, I said, I'll shoot you. Yeah. And he didn't. He didn't listen. He won't stand still.
Court documents say West got off his bike and ran when Sergeant Geise tried stopping him. Dispatch audio from Geise's radio recorded the incident. The documents say Geise watched West fall to the ground and go for a handgun in his waistband, but he dropped it. The officer then allegedly stepped over him and on his hand to stop him from grabbing the gun, which was about 3 inches away.
I got it.
Geise says West tried to get up from under his boot and he believed the 18-year-old was going to try and shoot him. That's when Geise shot the teen 3 times, twice in the head and once through the shoulder and chest.
We're all in a row.
The DA's office on Wednesday announced they will not file charges against Sergeant Geise and believe the shooting was justified.
Racine County District Attorney releasing her report with that decision.
The audio, video, and photos give a glimpse of what took place during that June shooting. Fox 6's Ashley Sears live in the newsroom now with a breakdown of it all. Ashley?
Mary, in that 23-page report, District Attorney Patricia Hansen lays out the events of that early morning encounter, explaining why she came to the decision that she did.
What the f*** gun? I'll shoot you!
They are the moments leading up to a deadly encounter. Sergeant Eric Geise first spots Tyrese West while riding his bike around 1:30 the morning of June 15th.
On a bicyclist on a curve of Highway 32 coming up to 24 on here, 24th Street.
According to redacted dispatch audio, West continued on. The Mount Pleasant police officer ran after him. The situation quickly intensifies.
What the f*** gun? I'll shoot you!
That interaction proved to be deadly. Investigators also released body camera footage from after the fatal shooting, where Sergeant Geise tells his fellow officers what happened, describing the final moments before he pulled the trigger.
And I told him, I said, I'm gonna shoot you, I'm gonna shoot you. Yeah. And he didn't listen, he won't stand still.
In a statement, DA Patricia Hansen says she ultimately decided the deadly use of force was justified, saying the case fell under self-defense. She said West had a gun and continued to reach for the weapon, despite commands not to. Photos of the gun were released along with other evidence Wednesday. Hansen calls Geise's decision to shoot legal and ethical. Tonight, the Mount Pleasant police chief released a statement expressing his condolences to the family of Tyrese West. He says now that the decision is final, Sergeant Geise is expected to return to unrestricted full-duty status.
Now, this brother Tyrese West was just riding his bike, minding his own business, when this cop, Eric Geise, tried to stop this brother because he said his bike didn't have a front light. Now, the point is, they can make up any excuse they want to. And they always have made up any excuse they wanted to. But this brother did take off, and the cop ended up chasing him. Now, this cop, Eric Geise, said he tried to use his taser, but he missed. Now, this brother had dropped his bike at this point and was just running. And the cop said it looked like he was reaching for a gun. The cop said this brother fell, and he either threw the gun or dropped the gun or something. So then the cop said he stood over top of him and then stepped on his hand so he wouldn't grab the gun. And the whole time threatening to shoot him. Now, on the audio, you can hear him say, drop the gun or I'm going to shoot you. But in the story, he said he dropped the gun and he broke free and was about to grab it. So then he had no other choice but to shoot this brother. Now, he was standing over top of this brother and shot him 5 times at close blank range, including once in the shoulder and 2 times in the head. And it was really execution style. And even though this brother was already dead, he still handcuffed him. And now, of course, the police are going to investigate themselves.
We don't know what's going to happen. Being honest, but everybody gonna be raged if she's not gonna tell us what we want to hear.
The mother of a teenager killed by a Mount Pleasant police sergeant will learn today if charges will be filed against the man who pulled the trigger. It's been 3 months since Tyrese West was killed, and the family is still looking for answers.
Sean Gallagher is at the Racine County Courthouse, where the family of that teenager will meet with the district attorney in just a couple of hours now. Sean.
Yeah, the family of Tyrese West has been very upset over the last few months, just feeling like there are a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to the shooting death of Tyrese, which happened back in June. But they hope to get some answers tonight right here behind me in the Racine County Courthouse.
I don't even know how to feel. I'm scared.
Monique West is still coming to terms with her son's death some 3 months after it happened. On June 15th, Sergeant Eric Geise tried to stop Tyrese because he was missing a light on his bicycle. The two struggled and Tyrese got away. Police say Geise believed Tyrese had a gun and tried to use his taser to stop him. The struggle escalated and Tyrese was shot and killed. The very next day, friends and family were looking for answers.
Tyrese, we want justice! You already done shot him in his back, his shoulder, his leg. Why did you shoot him in his head? Not once, but twice. Close range.
Over the course of the next 3 months, the only other information Monique got was from news reports. But earlier this week,
No peace.
She was told the district attorney would have a decision on charges today.
Something like deep down in your heart, you know something, and it's like, I know it's not gonna be what I want to hear. If she tell us that it was justified, We're not gonna stop. Her making her decision of what she wanted to do or what she think was right, that's not gonna do nothing. Because we still gonna get justice for Tyrese.
Now, Sergeant Geise has been on administrative leave ever since the incident occurred. I have reached out to the Mount Pleasant Police Department to see if they would have any comment about this situation. They tell me they will release a statement online after everything is said and done here.
Now, this cop, Eric Geise, didn't even know who this brother was. He was really stopping him because he thought he was another black man, because, you know, we all look alike. But when the police called his other brother's family, they told him it wasn't even him because he was in a treatment facility. This brother Tyrese West family said it took him a while for them to even tell him it was him that got shot. Now, the police are saying since this brother had a gun and the cop thought he was reaching for it, then it's okay to shoot and kill this 18-year-old brother. But his mom said he never had a gun. And when they tested the gun, they couldn't get his DNA or fingerprints. But if he was grabbing the gun like the cop said, how could it not have his fingerprints on it? But of course they stayed on code and justified this cop Eric Geise shooting and killing his brother Tyrese West.
I'm gonna shoot you, I'm gonna shoot you. Yeah. And he didn't listen. He won't stand still.
New at 10 video shows the chaos after a Mount Pleasant police officer shot and killed 18-year-old Tyrese West. That video just released after the district attorney announced the officer involved in all this will not face charges.
West was killed June 15th, shot by Mount Pleasant Police Sergeant Eric Geise after he tried to stop the teen for not having proper bike lights on.
Now, we are 96 days later, and the district attorney says the officer was acting in self-defense. That newly released video and details in this 23-page report paint the picture of how Sergeant Geise says that interaction escalated over the course of about 90 seconds to deadly force.
It also talks about why the officer was wearing a body camera, but he never turned it on.
Tom Durian live in Racine tonight to walk us through the contents of this report. Tom?
Yeah, Carol and Steve, that 23-page report that you mentioned, the family members went inside the district attorney's office here downtown at the courthouse, and they spent about 2 hours inside there going over all of that video that we're talking about here, the pages of evidence, and they left disappointed.
I want a thorough investigation done, and I also want to see Eric Geise locked up.
During the meeting with Racine County District Attorney Patricia Hansen, the evidence collected by both the Racine Police Department and the Wisconsin Department of Justice was shown to the family of Tyrese West. The DA lays out how the shooting happened, saying Mount Pleasant Sergeant Eric Geise came across West riding a bike without a headlight and attempted to stop him. Geise states that West first rode away on the bike, then ran on foot. The report says Geise first reached for his taser. It says Sergeant Geise aimed the taser at Mr. West and deployed it, but the prongs did not make contact with Mr. West. That's when Sergeant Geise then sees Mr. West reaching both hands to the left waistband of his pants, becomes concerned that Mr. West is reaching for a gun, the report says. Geise then said he saw West make a throwing motion and heard what appeared to be a metallic object hit the nearby fence. He then says he saw a handgun on the ground. West then falls, according to the officer, and is now just inches away from the weapon. While on top of West, the officer says he was able to step on West's hand closest to the gun, but eventually West broke his hand free and had access to the weapon. That's when the officer said he put space between the two of them and fired 3 times. 2 shots hit West in the head, the other in the shoulder. West's father showed others outside the courthouse what he learned.
Why did you put them shots in my son's head? Why? He was down. You was over him.
The report says none of this was caught on the sergeant's body camera because he didn't activate it and was not required to. The DA concluded that Officer Geise acted in self-defense, and that's why he was not charged.
The district attorney signed off on the execution of a young black man in Racine County.
It is a disappointment, but it's not a surprise.
Mount Pleasant police officer who killed a teenager earlier this year will soon be back to work after the district attorney announced no charges will be filed against him. Our Sean Gallagher joins us from the newsroom with the latest development. Sean?
Yeah, Elise, emotions are still running high over the decision. One man says he's filing this petition to have District Attorney Patricia Hansen removed from office, citing various things, including the recent decision to not file charges against Sergeant Eric Geise. Now, the decision came down yesterday as hundreds stood on the steps of the Racine County Courthouse. In a 23-page report, District Attorney Hansen explained why charges would not be filed against Sergeant Geise. It acknowledges the faults of Sergeant Geise, having a dash cam that didn't work, issues with his radio, and that he did not activate his body camera. But she says, quote, the lack of body camera recording does not automatically indicate an inappropriate use of force. Sergeant Geise says he thought West had a gun as he chased him, and a gun was recovered at the scene. But rather, Hansen points to at least 3 opportunities West had to throw away the gun and says the use of lethal force was the only alternative Geise had left to exercise. But the attorney for the West family says the only explanation we're hearing is from the person who pulled the trigger, and they have a problem with that.
It's 2019. Why didn't this officer turn on his body camera? Why did this officer not have a dash camera working? The entire report is based on the officer's version of the facts, and there's no other witnesses to our knowledge. So how are we to believe the officer's statement?
In a statement from the Mount Pleasant police chief, he also said that department will now seek funding for all 56 officers to be assigned with body cameras. And it's worth noting, while they have to wear body cameras, policy says they don't have to turn them on. It's at their discretion. The department will also review that body-worn camera policy.
Now, this cop, Eric Geise, did have a body camera, but didn't turn it on. And he didn't turn on his dash camera. So he may not even have turned on his police lights when he was chasing his brother. Because when they turn the lights on, the dash camera's supposed to automatically come on. So he might have been chasing him without even turning his lights on. And then he executed this young brother after he was already down, and then blamed him for his own murder. They tried to bring up this brother's history of traffic tickets and use it to criminalize him. And this cop who executed an 18-year-old is right back on the streets patrolling. No punishment whatsoever. And this cop, Eric Geise, even teaches training courses at Gateway Technical College in Kenosha. And they always talk about more training for cops, but they're doing exactly what they're trained to do. But until we get over this fear and this illusion of inclusion and wanting their acceptance, because we're never going to get it, and start defending ourselves and each other, then this is going to keep happening. Until somebody is punished for harming one of us, they're just going to keep doing it, knowing that they won't get punished. At some point, enough has to be enough. We are all we got. And if we don't do what we have to do, we're going to be in this situation 100 years from now.
You want my phone? You want to call the cops? You want you? I'm a fucking nigger. Okay. Okay. I'm superior to you, okay? Remember that.
No, you're not. You're a fucking nigger who stalked me.
Okay.
Believe it.
I'm a professor.
You heard us? Literally just stalked me down here.
I'm going to call campus police.
Literally, it's more than...
If you don't leave right
now.
now.
I'm leaving. It's more than him. It's a literal group of black men that have stalked me, trying to make sexual illicit...
Reese. No. Reese, you can't let it slide. Reese, you can't let it slide. Reese, you can't let it slide. Come on. I'm supposed to go.
Sorry. Okay. Can you go to your lab?
Yeah.
If there's an issue that you need to call the police, then call
Oh,
the
yeah,
police.
call the police. I know exactly who he is. He's followed me from a guy named Solomon Nader.
Also told that we were living through an epidemic of racially biased police shootings of black men. This, too, is false. A study published this August in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences is just the latest research undercutting the media narrative about race and police shootings. It is the rate of violent crime.
I would like to make a comment. I want to congratulate all the BSO officers who've done such a great job.
Do all you can. Morning, Captain.
Joshua Gallardo,
It's my line.
can you come down for a second? It's good to see you again. You probably don't remember me, but you're the police officer who falsely arrested me 4 years ago. You lied on the police report. I believe you're a rogue police officer, you're a bad police officer, and you don't deserve to be here.
Sparks fly at that Tamarack City Commission meeting where the commissioner had some words for a BSO deputy. That deputy had just been honored with an award.
The incident was recorded, and tonight the Broward County Sheriff is speaking out about it. CBS 4's Carrie Cott is live in Tamarack with details for us. Carrie?
Well, this is not something you see or hear every day. A Broward Sheriff's deputy received that Deputy of the Month award yesterday morning here at Tamarack City Hall. After that feel-good moment ended, one of the city commissioners asked that deputy to come back to the front and then called that deputy a bad police officer right to his face.
Joshua Gallardo,
it's my line.
Can you come down for a second?
It happened Wednesday morning at Tamarack City Hall. Commissioner Mike Gellin called Broward Sheriff's Deputy Joshua Gallardo to the front of the room after Gallardo earned a Deputy of the Month award. Then Gellin went off.
It's good to see you again. You probably don't remember me, but you're the police officer who falsely arrested me 4 years ago. You lied on the police report. I believe you're a rogue police officer, you're a bad police officer, and you don't deserve to be here.
People in the room were stunned. The mayor tried to smooth things over.
We appreciate, as a whole, BSO and everything that you do for us.
But the damage was done.
The venue, the comments, and the way they were presented into the public setting was inappropriate.
BSO Sheriff Gregory Toney came to Tamarack on Wednesday to meet with Gellin.
But we just left a meeting. I talked to him about it, about how I was disappointed with his behavior, and it was unacceptable. And, surprisingly, the commissioner was very receptive to it, understood that perhaps he could have took a different approach, and we're going to work together to make sure this type of thing doesn't happen again.
Public records show in 2015, Deputy Gallardo arrested Gellin for resisting arrest without violence while the deputy was investigating a separate case. The arrest report says Gellin failed to comply with my commands to move from the area. I repeatedly requested that he leave the area and not continue to approach me from behind. Gellin was criminally charged. Later, prosecutors dropped the case after they viewed Gellin's cell phone video of the encounter, saying it has been determined a strong likelihood of conviction is not present, as images in the video do not support conviction. But Gellin clearly held a grudge.
I felt shocked. I was appalled.
Tamarack Mayor Michelle Gomez said she was stunned by Gellin's comments. She's looking into whether Gellin's comments broke the city's civility code. That could lead, she said, possibly to Gellin's censure, suspension, or even potential removal by the governor.
We have to look at our teeth in our civility code and see what we have available.
I communicated with Commissioner Mike Gellin over text today. He didn't want to go on camera, but told me I had a productive meeting with Sheriff Toney yesterday afternoon, and we will move forward in a positive and constructive manner. I asked the commissioner about the arrest. He told me that he did nothing wrong that day. I also asked him over text why he chose this public forum to criticize the deputy 4 years later, but he did not answer that question.
This motherfucker hit a lady, yo. He's Florida. Yo, I gotta get this fucking bag, yo. It's time the parents are running. And here comes the Blue Klux Klan. Here comes the Blue Klux Klan.
Video recorded outside a strip club in downtown Baltimore. Witnesses tell 11 News it shows a male officer punch and throw the woman in the white blouse to the ground.
And we looked up and the police was striking a female. I mean, with full force, full impact.
The woman, it turns out, is Baltimore Police Sergeant Henrietta Middleton. Other police and private security officers intervene. The person who gave 11 News this recording works security in the area. He asked not to be identified. The video does not show what happened prior to the incident.
He wasn't arresting her. I mean, he threw that lady around like she was a rag doll.
Was Sergeant Middleton trying to tell the officer something? According to this witness, she did talk to a female security officer.
When she was on the ground, the officer told her, the security, that she was police. And so that the security could state that to the officer because he wasn't hearing her.
Police tell 11 News Middleton is now suspended. They say officers responded early Sunday morning for a disorderly patron. When officers arrived, they observed the patron acting in a disorderly manner. The female patron approached an officer and refused to comply. She was arrested and charged on a criminal citation for drunk and disorderly conduct. She was identified as Henrietta Middleton, a 12-year veteran of the Baltimore Police Department, who is currently assigned to the Inspector General's office. That unit trains officers in constitutional policing. This witness says police led away Middleton in handcuffs. The uniformed officer was also removed from the scene.
I think they got him out of there because the crowd was outraged.
Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby says she has begun asking the courts to throw out nearly 800 criminal cases. Many of those cases are connected to the Baltimore police officers connected and convicted in the gun trace task force scandal just this year. Mosby says there are also a number of other officers whose cases were compromised.
City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby testifies on Capitol Hill. Thanks for staying with WJZ. I'm Nicole Baker.
And I'm Rick Ritter. Now, she testified about marijuana reform in what was the first hearing in recent history where members of Congress are taking an in-depth look at injustice punishments for marijuana use and distribution.
WJZ Live tonight, Rachel Menitoff explains they are starting to talk about federal reforms now. Rachel.
Nicole, at today's hearing, State's Attorney Mosby explained why she's chosen not to prosecute criminal marijuana possession cases, and she also offered suggestions to Congress, including federal decriminalization and righting the wrongs of previous criminal marijuana cases.
There is no better illumination of this country's failed war on drugs than the city of Baltimore, Maryland.
State's Attorney Mosby argued before members of the Judiciary Committee that the priority for substance abuse should be treatment rather than punishment. Her remarks were part of a hearing on marijuana laws in America, racial justice, and the need for reform.
Whole communities are being ravished and have lost generations of mothers, fathers, brothers, sons, and daughters to incarceration and a cyclical poverty due to these convictions.
Mosby's testimony talked about the legal, social, and economic consequences of marijuana arrests and the racial disparity here in the city of Baltimore when it comes to arrests and convictions for marijuana possession and distribution.
Data shows the enforcement of these laws are overwhelmingly inflicted upon poor and black communities. It's been reported, as was already mentioned, black people are almost 4 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession in the United States than white people, despite individuals of both races using marijuana at the same rate.
Earlier this year, Mosby announced that her office would stop devoting resources to the prosecution of people charged with marijuana possession, regardless of their previous criminal histories. Her decision came as a surprise and stirred up controversy statewide.
Ms. Mosby is wrong. There are drug dealers in Baltimore City that need to be prosecuted.
Mosby's office also moved to vacate the convictions of 5,000 marijuana users, an effort that judges ultimately denied. At today's hearing, she suggested Congress remove marijuana from the list of scheduled controlled substances and regulate it, similar to alcohol and tobacco.
I refuse to accept the status quo any longer, especially when there is so much evidence that proves that we can be smarter and do better as it relates to marijuana policy.
Mosby also suggested reinvesting the money that used to be used to crack down on marijuana users into communities themselves.
Now, after Governor Hogan's news conference and the release of that letter calling for responsibility for prosecuting violent crime to be shifted from the city state's attorney to the attorney general, the Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby called a rare late night news conference. It appears she was at the Orioles game with her daughters last night. She called reporters down to Camden Yards to respond to the governor's move and said she has been trying to get a meeting with Governor Hogan.
What I can tell you is that I attempted to meet with the governor on several occasions throughout this year to no avail. And I look forward. I stand ready, willing, and able to sit down and collaborate with the governor to ensure that we talk about real solutions that are going to actually change the trajectory of the crime in our city.
But once again, Governor Hogan appears to have moved beyond that, calling for Attorney General Brian Frost to prosecute violent crimes committed in Baltimore City in this letter.
First at 11 tonight, a racially charged debate between Detroit's top cop and an outspoken congresswoman.
Chief James Craig says Representative Rashida Tlaib crossed the line with comments about facial recognition technology.
We did. We talked to both of them late this afternoon, and if you've been following this issue for the last few months, you know people have been so emotional on both sides. Chief Craig has invited lawmakers, reporters, and photographers to tour the real-time crime lab. That included Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, who he invited back in August after they battled about the issue on Twitter. Tlaib accepted the invitation on Monday, and the Detroit News recorded it all on video.
Analysts need to be African Americans, not people that are not.
On Monday, during a tour of the Real-Time Crime Center with the Detroit News, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib told the chief she feels the department needs to use black analysts as part of the facial recognition team.
I think non-African Americans think African Americans all look the same.
The controversial comments captured national attention.
If I had made a similar comment, people would be outraged. They'd be calling for my resignation.
Detroit's top cop blasting Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib after her remarks inside the city's real-time crime center. The Congresswoman said he should employ only black analysts on the department's facial recognition team.
I think they're racist.
Well, the facial recognition technology, or called software, is racist in itself.
The fact that she made that statement, what does that say to the members of this department who are analysts, who are trained, who are white, that they in some way can't do their job professionally? That's insulting.
Tlaib says research shows analysts using the technology more accurately identify members of their own race.
And if you look, the studies say that white analysts should be analyzing white suspects.
Chief Craig says her remarks about hiring only one race group are insensitive, and members of the force are troubled and outraged.
I had a conversation with the union vice president, Ron Thomas, who's infuriated. He said we would rather that she fight for us to get us more money or more jobs. And they said, you know, their support for her is in question at this point.
My residents ask me to do my job, and my job is to make sure they're not going to be misidentified and detained or falsely arrested because he's using broken technology.
But here's what's troubling. As a police chief who happens to be African American in this city, if I made a similar statement, people will be calling for my resignation right now. We know that. So is it a double standard? And that's the number one question I have.
We repeatedly asked Tlaib today if she stands by her comment.
I stand behind my comments that facial recognition technology is broken and that relying on an analyst that might not be reflective of the suspect is flawed in itself as well.
Tlaib says she wants to make sure in a city of 80% African Americans that no one's civil liberties are violated. Chief Craig says all of his officers and civilian employees go through implicit bias training.
An attack on a black man in Olympia. Police think so. South Bureau Chief Drew Mickelson broke the story on Twitter this afternoon. Drew, police say the alleged attacker was prompted by some recent vandalism.
That's what this appears to be. At first, police say the man told him he was acting in self-defense when he stabbed a black man and that man's white girlfriend. But this afternoon, investigators say this was a clear case of an unprovoked act where at least one of the victims was attacked purely and solely because of the color of his skin. Prosecutors today told us they expect to charge Daniel Rowe with a hate crime. Investigators say he has several white supremacist tattoos and talked about recent protests. Rowe held on $500,000 bail, adding that had he not been arrested, he may have continued to attack other black people in downtown Olympia. The two victims who were stabbed did not suffer life-threatening injuries.
Shoppers at a Kroger's in College Park feel the store's new security measures are racist. Good afternoon, or rather good evening. I'm Sean Gables.
And I'm Tracy Hutchins. Well, if shoppers buying laundry detergent and other items for their home, they can't get to them without walking through a glass partition. They have to do it one by one. CBS 46's Jamie Kennedy is live at the store. And Jamie, shoppers there, they tell you this is just too much.
Tracy, stereotyped, racism, intimidated and uncomfortable, all words used by shoppers to describe this Kroger store.
I think it kind of is racist. You definitely see that here on Old National.
College Park Kroger shoppers upset at the new security installations. feeling stereotyped.
No, you won't see that in Fayetteville or maybe like Cobb County anywhere, I doubt it.
The security installation only has one entrance, many taking to social media to voice their anger at what they say feels like shopping in a prison just to buy toiletries or laundry detergent. Shoppers all too happy to tell us about the amount of theft at the store. And have you heard of theft being a problem here?
Yes, I have.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Quite a bit, I sure have.
Other shoppers telling me many people take things from the shelves and use them in the bathroom without paying, but feel a less intimidating approach should be taken. We spoke to the company, who say in part the changes are being implemented to help improve operational efficiencies and increase profitability. We take pride in keeping our shelves fully stocked, and we believe these changes, which are part of a pilot project, will help us do so. Besides the inconvenience, shoppers say if the company cares about their customers, a different solution should be found.
Of course, you don't want to come in where you're afraid to shop because you're afraid that someone's going to steal, or that you're going to be close in the environment of them stealing. So of course you want to take precautions, but I don't know if that's the safest precaution.
Now, I spoke to City of South Fulton Police, and they said that theft at the store is no more than any other store. Sean.
But not just any other store has these types of devices when you're shopping, Jamie. You know, we saw that glass partition for things like detergent and such. Was any other part of the store fenced off?
Yeah, where you buy the vitamins, they actually had sort of like a garden fence, maybe about waist height on me. That was going all the way around as well, and only one way into that as well. So they must think the vitamins are something sacred there too. And also where you would do money transfers or cash in checks, they also had a big screened in porch there, and they also have 2 security guards on at the time, and they also have a off-duty police officer here as well. So security is tight here, Sean.
If this behavior continues, your degrees will be mailed to you. Choose which way you want to go.
As I said, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be with you today. While we will undoubtedly disagree at times, I hope we can do so respectfully. Let's choose to hear one another out.
You know, I was taught, I'm from the deep South, that this man was preaching hate.
Is the sheep preaching hate when he says, I'm not going to let the wolf eat me anymore? If the wolf comes in here, next time he comes in here, I'll do whatever I have to do to keep him off my back. Is the sheep violent, or is the wolf the violent one? He wasn't teaching hate, he was teaching common sense. You know, somebody's knocking you over the head, stop them. Do whatever you have to do to stop them. You know, the ones that were knocking him over the head were afraid of the fact that he might swing back, so they said, no, he's teaching hate, he's violent.